not 3 months. I think it was 2.5 months. So the baby was still an embryo, yeah? She was still very young. So they just washed, and then I was scheduled now for the second round in theater, where they will now do a major surgery.
So that was your first theater?
That was the first theater to go, just to wash my stomach. The second one I went to do now to do away with the fibroids, and they were so big. It took around 5 hours operation, with my husband just waiting outside, not knowing what to do, if I'll come out safe or not. But at that time, I must say that I saw death with my eyes, because I remember my mouth went dry. My recovery was not okay. So when the doctor came back, he found me that I'm not yet up from the drug. So they asked, "Kwani Patricia jamka?" I could hear, but I couldn't do anything. And so I could hear him calling my name. He was just next to me. But then I feel like he's calling me from afar. Patricia, Patricia. So I'm trying to, I wish he knew I cannot speak. I wish he knew that I'm just hearing him, but I cannot react. But now there's nothing, but just a power came. Something came and lifted my hands. And with this finger, I pointed my mouth. Immediately, the doctor realized, let me call the nurse. He called the nurse, and I could hear everything, but I could not move, I could not talk. So he called the nurse. When the nurse came, he just asked for a bottle of water. Just 3 drops, I was up.
Wow.
That is how God did, and my life just changed from that point ever. And I just knew that indeed God is very faithful.
Wow.
So that was my second round.
A power came from heaven and lifted your finger.
Literally my finger, because I couldn't talk. I wish, have you ever been in a position where you wish somebody could come, take some water and wet your mouth? And I don't know how I realized it is my mouth that has a problem, because it was very dry. 3 drops was the medicine.
Wow.
I was up. Now I could now see the dog. Actually, after that, I was now taken even just to the main ward immediately.
Wow.
Wow. That is the power of God.
Wow. That's amazing. So the fibroids were removed, the 5 of them.
The 5 of them, but I couldn't see them. The doctor he took photos with his, because he said they were so bad. So he took the photos and then he forwarded me. I looked at them until today. That thing is still in my mind. And when somebody tells me he or she has fibroids, I can really relate what is inside your stomach, what is inside your uterus. They are so ugly. I can say they are demonic. You can't imagine somebody holding those things in the uterus. And that is why I think even the babies can be killed just by such demons.
Wow, guys. Wow. I mean, the fact that you can go to theater and come out alive. I'm actually thinking, if the doctor had not followed your instruction
up to
and
today, and how, Linda, let me ask you, how did he know that I needed water?
Let's pause your story there. So guys, I mean, these ladies have such a story. Zeddy, so you finally ran out of the house.
Yes, and found my way to...
find your way to
my parents' house.
The road, and someone just picks you up. That was an angel, we believe.
That was an angel.
And takes you to your parents' house.
Yeah.
What happens then?
So I get home, and this guy offers to help me, but I just want to see my parents.
Yeah.
That was the only thing in my mind. So I got in. I remember it was a Sunday. They were in the house. My dad was shocked, because for him, he knew either my daughter has died and she's never coming back, or something happened. He gave me such a hug. All I did was cry. And he told me, don't talk, just relax, we'll talk later. Did the same with my mom. So we relaxed. The following day is when at least I slept, I did all these things. Now I sat down with them. I remember that day my mom didn't go to work, and I shared with them what happened. It was so heartbreaking. How I would see my mom cry. My dad, it's only that he's a man, but you can see his eyes, you can see his rage.
Teary,
Yes, and they know this person. they ended up.
Oh, it was someone
a
who was
neighbor.
known to you.
It was a neighbor.
Okay.
Yes. So after the ordeal, after the story and everything I shared, they took me to hospital. That was the first thing. So they took me to hospital. I was checked, and here I was pregnant.
Oh.
Yes. So I was told I was pregnant. So number one, what came into my mind is, this is a disappointment to my parents. It wasn't willingly, but for me, I felt all I've always dreamt was to get married, then get babies.
Yeah.
Here I am being told that I'm pregnant. I did not say anything to my parents. I did not speak. I did not do anything. When we went home, I went, packed my bags, and left the house. I went to a friend's home. So my friend's mom didn't know what was going on. She didn't even bother to call my parents or anything. So I went and stayed there with her. I did not tell her what was happening. I just told her, I need to crash in your place for a while. I need to stay here and figure out a few things. So she was like, why aren't you going home? I know your dad, your mom, they are good people. Why aren't you going home? What's happening? I told her, nothing. You don't worry about it. So I stayed in her house for, I think, a week. That's when the mom was concerned. She was like, why isn't she going home? What's happening? All these things. So I told my friend the story. And I told her what happened. And I told her, right now that I'm pregnant, I don't want to stay home. Because what am I doing? My parents will see me as a disappointment. Yeah. I am pregnant. So she was like, there's no problem if you stay here, but my mom has a lot of questions. And if we don't tell her, you just have to leave. Yeah. So I told her, fine, because I can't share with your mom and I don't want her to know, because now that's another person. Yeah. I felt like to shame. So I didn't tell her. And I told her, it's fine. Today night, I will leave. Where I was going, I didn't know. I remember that night I slept. You see, these members are watchmen. I went and told him, mi nataka kulala. Just for this night, just let me sleep here. So I slept there. And I decided, if I don't go back home, things might end up getting worse. Because that day, remember, it was so cold, you can't sleep. It was drizzling. It was such a hard moment for me. So I called my brother. And I told him, I need us to meet. And he came. He's my brother and he loves me. He came. We talked and he told me, you know what? Mom and dad are not disappointed in you. This is something that happened without you.
Yeah, it was not a willing.
It wasn't willingly. Yeah. So just come back home and we will sort everything out. And so he encouraged me. I went back home. I wasn't talking to my mom. I wasn't talking to my dad. He was the only person I was talking to because I felt, okay, what am I telling you? So at that time, I started becoming depressed. Started thinking about my life. So how am I even going back to school? How will people see me? I'm pregnant. Pregnancy is not something to hide. It will be seen. So in my head, I started thinking, should I abort or not? Should I or not? But thankfully, how I have been raised and what I see other people go through, I told myself, I'm not going to abort that baby. I will not. I will not. That is what I kept telling myself. And my brother kept telling me, that's not, don't even think about it. Because this baby is innocent after all. That's fine. So that is how we continued now. I stayed home. When I was about 5.5 months pregnant, so this guy knew what was going on. And he knew I was pregnant and all these things. So he got my number from a very close friend of mine and called her and told her, you know what? I know Zedi is pregnant and I'd like to help her. I know I did wrong, all those things. So when I was told, I felt, okay, maybe he's remorseful. Yeah. Honestly, maybe he is. Yeah. And you know, at that time I was young. Yeah. So you're still naive. Yeah. You can be cheated. So I remember that time, Pastor Victor, my husband, was my very good friend. But I wasn't sharing with him stuff. We were just talking. He would encourage me about life. He would talk to me. So when this guy came and he apologized and did all these things, because we met through this friend of mine, told me, come, we go, you hear what he has to say. He apologized. He said, I'm sorry, I'm even ready to come home, talk to your parents and all and all and all. I've even talked to a doctor. I need you to start clinic tomorrow. Yeah. So I was like, okay. Where is the hospital? He gives me direction to Ngong Road. So apparently, this doctor knows I'm coming. I went to the hospital. There I was checked. I've never been checked before, so I don't know how pregnant women are checked. Yeah. So he tells me, do this, I do. Do this, I do. He gives me medication, I am fine. I go back home. So at home at around 6, I start having cramps. That was so terrible. I have never felt that. It was so painful. I remember I was just telling my brother, me, I need a hospital because I don't know what's happening. Sijui, if this is how pregnant women feel, I don't know, but this feeling is just too much.
So could it, the doctor had given you medication to abort? Or?
He had put medication in me to abort the baby without my knowledge.
Wow.
Yes.
So this guy pretended to be
Remorseful.
And you know, remorseful, and of course got into your naivety and took advantage of that. Because he did not want responsibility, he sends you to a doctor who they had connived with.
Yes.
He gives you medication to abort.
Yes.
So did the pregnancy come out?
Now, at that point, as I was feeling bad and all these things, my parents were not there. So my brother couldn't drive. He's still young. He's younger than me. All he did was just tell me, wait for mom and dad to come. So by the time my parents were getting home, the water had already broken. And yes, I was bleeding, but not that much. So I was rushed to hospital. On reaching to hospital, I was told, you are in labor. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm in labor?
At 5 months.
At 5 months. How am I in labor? So I stayed in the hospital. The same day at night, the baby came out. That baby was as tiny as this hand of mine. I remember I just cried. And I asked God, what life do you want me to go through? You could have just killed me. I don't want this life. So what am I doing with this baby? How am I even going to raise it? How am I even going to hold it?
So of course the baby was premature, and I believe he or she did not make it, or they
she did. She was 600 grams. And after that, the doctors took the baby, did what they can. There was being treated. So this baby survived for up to almost 1 year.
1 year, okay.
Yes. So on reaching the 1 year, this guy comes again. Same story. Oh, I'm sorry, I've come to see the baby. I've come to all these things. But deep down, he knew what he was doing. I don't know what he gave the baby. For some reason, my baby started becoming ill. A week of ailment, of me just being in hospital, in and out, because I can't stay in hospital. The baby has to stay there. So I had to go visit, come back, visit, come back. I remember the last day when we were discharged. And I thought, at least now we can move on. When we were discharged, I got home. I just sat down with my baby. She started having a fever. There was no one to help me at that point. The doctor's place was quite a distance. So I took the baby.
All right.
Yeah.
Now the story is starting, but we have to go on a break. The baby premature at 600 grams makes it up to 1 year. Then we don't know what happens. See you after a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
This is Destiny Life Church inviting you for the Elevation Conference from the 6th of October to the 8th of October every evening from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. every day, featuring Reverend Maurice Gasheru.
Your vision is supposed to elevate them.
Bishop Kefa Omai.
Anything that you will do for God shall be done.
Apostle David Juma.
The thing I received 47 years ago is still burning in my soul.
And Pastor Phillips Katutu.
Why sometimes I keep beseeching you, following you up, massaging you with prayer.
The Elevation Conference is a place to be.
Wow, welcome back. I hope you have been thinking about what happened to Zeddy. So when we went on a break, she told us that the baby got to 1 year, the narcissistic man who had raped and impregnated her came back and wanted to take care of the baby. So what happened then?
So in the process of now the baby being unwell and everything, that day I now took her again to hospital because we had been discharged.
Yeah.
So I got up, carried the baby, and I remember as I was walking, I kept telling God, if this is how this baby is going to suffer, I'd rather you just take her. Because I can't bear with that pain. It's too much. Every other time in hospital, then why did you give her to me? And as I finished those words, the baby just slept.
She rested.
That's how she rested.
Oh.
Yeah. It wasn't an easy one, but
What was the name of this baby?
she was called Patience.
Patience.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe she's with angels right now.
She is. She is.
So this man, is he still alive? Is he still
He
around?
is. Unfortunately, he is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come to Patricia. Now you're in your second operation. Then what happens?
Wow, now I'm on my second. I remember after the surgery, the doctor told me to stay for at least 6 months before I conceive. But later, I must tell you, it was so hard for me because I lost that first baby when it was a Mother's Day.
Ah?
Yes.
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day. When people are celebrating the fruit of their womb, mine dies. And so my mom called me that day. So she thought that let me encourage her by wishing her a happy Mother's Day. When she wished me a happy Mother's Day, I was so bitter until for the first time I quarreled my mom, because I couldn't understand, how do you tell me happy Mother's Day and I don't have my baby with me? Because I remember before the Mother's Day, I think I had now come out of theater without my child. Yeah. When I was at KBS, those buses, I really cried until one woman seated next to me told me, "Lady, I don't know what you're going through, but for anything that you're going through, trust God. He will get you out of this." And so I was so bitter. I was so angered. I really wished the doctor could not have advised me to go for conception before he removed the fibroids. But here I am. After 1 month after the surgery of the fibroids, ameniambia nikae 6 months. 1 month down, I have conceived again.
Wow.
The quest of becoming a woman, a mother, you know.
Yeah, you are very active.
And I'm now sure that I can now become a mother.
Yes.
You know, I can carry a baby 1 month. So we were wondering with my husband, do we tell the doctor? He told us 6 months. Now, if he hears it's 1 month down and we're already but we had, because of the first experience, we didn't want to lose the second baby. So the second baby is now 6 years old.
Wow, praise the Lord.
Glory to God.
Amen.
She's now 6 years old. After that, it was April, November, I got appendicitis. I had to go to theater again. After that, I conceived my other baby.
Your second.
Again, theater, the second born. Again, theater for another time.
That's now number.
For the CS. That is number 5.
Wow.
After number 5, that is when now the real thing happened. Where there is something that happened that really threatened my life. And I remember I conceived for 3rd time. Now, this is now for the 4th. Yeah. Now for the 3rd baby that I was expecting. But at that time, it was very, very hard for me because I conceived and I was not very ready for it. But I had issues to do with pressure and all that. And so at the end of the day, this pressure made me to almost lose my 3rd baby. But when I went to the doctor, they rescued her at a span of only 15 minutes of survival.
Wow.
So she was given 15 minutes either to die. If it's past 15 minutes, we are going to take her out dead. Why? Because the pressure was too high.
Is that what they call preeclampsia or what?
It was placenta abruption,
Oh, okay.
where the pressure is too high until the placenta now ruptures.
Yeah.
When it ruptures, the blood gets inside the amniotic fluid.
And it chokes the baby.
It chokes the baby. Actually, it suffocates her because blood is not clean.
Yeah.
So it's like you are sitting on something that is unclean, and yet they want you to breathe. That is why her breath was going down. And so the doctor said, if not in 15 minutes, she's gone. And so in less than 15 minutes, the doctor had done what he did. But the first destination for her was the ICU. So she was taken to the ICU now. Yeah, she was taken to the ICU. She stayed there for like 10 days. And I remember one of the pediatricians, she called me. She told me, of all the children in the ICU, yours is responding very fast. Even for her, she didn't know that she will be discharged after 10 days. Actually, we were to take, because she was given antibiotics every day.
How many months was this when?
She was 34.
34.
33 heading to 34. And now she's coming out. So at the end of the day, she survived that. And then I conceived again. After 2 years.
So after this, baby number 3?
After baby number 2. Oh, okay, baby number 3, yeah. Because I lost the first one.
The first one, yeah.
I conceived now after 2 years.
Okay. Your firstborn is 6 years?
6 years.
Then
baby number 2 is 3.
Is 3.
Yes.
Okay.
But basically that is now my third pregnancy. Now I'm on my fourth pregnancy. So you can imagine somebody with 4 pregnancies with only 2 children.
Oh, the
Lord is merciful. And that is why he had to sustain my life to raise the 2. And that is why I give him praise. And this other one was what do we call it? Ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic is where the baby dies at the fallopian tube. And
they die or lodge. They implant at
the fallopian tube. But because there's no space, they usually die. And that is why it's very fatal. Once he or she dies there, and you're not, maybe they don't realize early. What I came to realize, because I've now experienced, is the fallopian tube is very small, very tiny. This baby is supposed to be growing until you can even have a 3 kg baby. Some even go to 5. So you can imagine, you can't have a 5 kg thing on a tube. Yes. And that is why sometimes when it bursts, that fluid, once it gets into your stomach, you die. So for me, God helped me not to reach to those levels. But it had swollen up until they couldn't again rescue my fallopian tube. So as we're speaking right now, I'm -1. And so I went to the doctor. They told me I have a miscarriage, but they didn't really know where the baby was sitting. And that is why they couldn't know it was ectopic. So I went to theater out. Went to theater again. That is when they realized it is ectopic. When I was done a major surgery to remove the baby from the fallopian tube, they tried to do laparoscopy, but they couldn't. So they had to open. Laparoscopy is it is a place where you're not operated open. They use tubes, and I don't know, tubes and strings to remove whatever is supposed to be removed. Like appendicitis, they did that. I was not really cut. I went to theater and they used those things to do. So for this one, they couldn't use, because once they saw that the nini was swollen, the fallopian tube, they had to cut the tube, and then they join it. But kumbe, it had already affected the ovary.
Okay. So one side of your reproductive
side was completely affected. And so I had to go again for another surgery, where now this doctor realized, hey, the fallopian tube is also affected. That is why you always have this pain at the right side of your reproductive system. And so I'm there again in theater to remove the ovary.
Now,
but at that time, this is now number 8. I think I've gone. The number 8 now, I didn't know that I was going to, the ovary is going to be removed. It was because the doctor took me in. They took me into very bright light. That is where he told me he saw that the ovary has an issue. So when he opened up, he even wondered how I survived. And I remember one time when they were taking away the fallopian tube, there's this woman, she was a Muslim, who came to see me after the gyne had already finished. It was 2 days after the operation. So I could hear her on the corridors saying, I want this patient of bed number. So they mentioned my bed. So I knew I'm the bed number 4. So you're coming to see patient of bed number 4. When she came, I saw she's a Muslim. And she's like, wow, Patricia, I have seen your file. I have seen your results. I have seen what the doctor did. Nobody survives what you went through. Because they washed my stomach when they realized I was I had miscarried. But the child had not moved to the uterus. Yeah. She was still where? In the fallopian tube. So when they are washing me, the child is still intact. I walked with that thing for 1 full month.
Wow.
Something that is, actually she said it's impossible. It has never happened. Sometimes you can realize you have fallopian tube. Others don't even realize they have ectopic pregnancy. And that is why you find yourself, people take painkillers and then you just hear that they died. You just fall and die. Because that thing has a, I think, time duration, even if I'm not a medic. But that doctor came and told me, she's a Muslim, but she told me, your God, if this is the God you're serving, your God is gracious.
Wow.
Continue serving that God.
Until the Muslim confessed
that the
our God of the valley,
He is.
Yes.
He is still the God that we need to serve. How come he couldn't come and tell me, my God, or he could say, our God? It comes to a point where she comes even to realization that it is not what I serve. Whom I serve has never done this. But what you serve, the God that you're serving, is the one that has sustained your life until this far.
Wow. Guys, the God of the valley and the mountains. This is the Adonai, the one we serve.
Amen.
And these ladies have been through such ordeals. I'd like us to go back to Zedi's story. After now you lose your baby. What happens there?
I think for me, first of all, it was quite heartbreaking. And I ended up regretting making those prayers and telling God, you take her away from me. It really broke my soul. And I kept blaming myself. If I couldn't make that prayer, maybe this baby would be alive. I did all those things. And I remember sharing with my husband. Back then he was my friend. And I told him. And he was like, you know what? This is something God is trying to tell you. He can hear your prayers. This is not the only prayer that he's going to hear. Try and make other prayers. Let this pass. Let this go and focus to songe mbele. And I remember he really tried to encourage me. But that thing took me quite far away. I started becoming, I wasn't trusting men, obviously. That went. I wasn't trusting what people were telling me. For me now, I became this person. I blocked myself. There's this far you can get to me, and there's this far you cannot. So I ended up becoming this person who doesn't trust anyone, especially men. When it came to men, I didn't trust them.
So you kind of caged yourself.
I caged myself.
Because of that experience.
Yes.
Now, because of time, how have you been able to heal through that process?
I think for me, my healing came when I started sharing my story. And the moment I accepted to forgive this person. Because up to now, I still see him.
You see him?
I can see him, as in he'll pass and I'll see him. You get?
And you don't feel like stabbing?
Now I don't. But back then, I had this rage. And I was telling God, you give me the power. Even me, I want to own a gun. Just go kill this person and I move on with my life, you know. And the prayers I had for him is, may he not have children.
Yeah.
Those are the prayers I used to pray. But the day I decided to forgive, the day I decided to let this thing go behind my back and talk about it and encourage other women, that is when my healing came. Yeah. And this far, God has been faithful.
So what you're saying is that regardless of what someone has done to you, the decision to forgive has to come from the person
me,
who is
myself.
Offended.
Yes.
Per se.
Yes. Because you see now for him, his life is moving on.
Yeah.
He's not there. He's
not even bothered.
Yeah, he's not even bothered, nothing. But for me, who is depressed here, I'm the one who's getting hurt every other time. I'm the one who's crying. I'm the one who's hating people. But the day I decided to forgive from within my heart, that is when healing started coming.
Wow, people. Zedi decides to forgive a man who dragged her, raped her, presumably even drugged the child that she got, and the baby dies. Yet she still forgives. You have refused to forgive your neighbor who scratched your car. You have refused to forgive that boyfriend who dumped you on Facebook. I beg now. Choose forgiveness. You will live longer.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because many times we take offense and bitterness and we become so bitter with people who have rightfully offended us. Yeah, I mean, even before God, I mean, this guy was supposed to be shot. You know, we should have come in front of him, brother, I'm here. Here's the gun. And the Lord will understand.
True.
Wow, I like that, Zedi. I believe someone has learned something. Doesn't matter who hurt you. The choice to forgive is yours. It's not the person who offended you, because their life is moving on. I mean, the guy could even be rich right now. He could be driving whatever he's doing.
Yes.
Because the Bible says vengeance is the Lord's. It's not ours. So, Patricia, were you angry with God? Did you feel offended?
I think the only part where I was angered, kidogo, was the first miscarriage. And I believe because of prayer and especially support from my husband. My husband has been there all through those theater seasons. My husband is one person who's been taking me all through my antenatal clinics. There is no one clinic I've ever gone without him.
Wow.
And so there is this support that I get from him.
Thank you, Pastor Vincent.
Yeah.
You know, it is rare to hear women praising their husband, and you know that he took me through antenatal clinics, you know?
Yes. So he has been there for me until sometimes I usually feel for him, because what if he gets that bad news that I didn't make it? But just that persistence, that saying, I must be there, twende hosi, I must be by your side, I have your back, you can make it. Sometimes I cry so much. He tells me, you are stronger than what you're going through. And so that one, you'd have no choice but just to be strong. And so I never found a place in my heart to see that God was wrong in any way. Because I remember now the last bit where now I received my instant healing. I had sat on a couch and we were just about to pray. Usually in the house, we walk around the way Pentecostals do and pray until you hear God amesikia hapa. But that day God akaniambia sasa fanya hivi. Tulia.
Now you need to
Leo nataka tu ukae chini na usiombe uponyaji. I want you to pray for my presence. I want you to seek me. I don't want you to seek what you want. And I remember that day, the verse that came into my heart was, everywhere Jesus went, he did good. And he healed everybody that was oppressed of the devil. And since that day, I told God, I need your presence, because when I have your presence, the healing is sure, the lifting is sure, the promotion is sure. Everything that I need is all found in the presence of God. Linda, from that day up to today, I believe that the presence of God healed me. And that is why I didn't have a doubt that God was walking me through. The Bible says, he holds us by his righteous right hand. And because of that, we cannot say that in the valley, he's not there. The God of the valley.
The lily in the valley.
In the valley.
You know, a lily is something, is a flower. Is
yes, that grows.
A valley is not somewhere that's
something that is good.
Yeah, but then in the valley, there is a lily.
Something good grows out of that. And that is where now, when you get into the valley, I want to encourage somebody out there. When you are in the valley, that is the best part for you to wait on the Lord and just to experience his move, because victory does not come to them that don't fight. You understand? Victory comes to them that are fighting something. Zedi has just told us her fights. I've told you my fights. You have your fights. What are you fighting? That thing that you're fighting is what God is going to make sure that by himself, he's going to hold your hand until you get out of that place. That is only when the Bible will come true, that you overcome by the word of your testimony.
Wow.
Yes.
My sister now. Hey, have you heard? It does not come by just relaxing. That's why I think the Bible says that the violent
We'll take
Shall
it.
take
Take
it by
it
force.
by force.
Yeah.
See wale wamerelax.
See what I mean? And I think I also like the part where God had to, stell you and calm you down and tell you, seek me. Don't seek for your healing.
Stop
Don't seek,
seeking other
for
things.
those other things.
Yes.
But seek me.
Yes.
Because if you find me,
You find
find
everything.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zeddy, I know you want to continue preaching. Preach now.
I think mine is just to tell someone who's watching me and listening to this story, just hang in there.
Yeah.
The moment that you're about to give up is the moment that God is about to reveal himself. So just one more night, one more day, press on, and he'll surely come through. Yeah.
So would you say you have totally now come out of that situation that you went through at that time?
Yeah, I think I can say I have, because right now I'm saying my stories without crying. I feel the bitterness, but I'm not tearing up because I know I'm encouraging someone. Yeah, because back then I would talk about it, I would cry, I would feel sorry for myself, but life had to move on, and I am completely healed, and I love children.
Wow.
And I love my husband and I trust him. That was my biggest issue.
You overcame.
I overcame.
Yeah.
Though it wasn't easy. I think the first years, it wasn't easy.
So now, after you say that was about 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when did you and your husband now, move from being friends to getting married?
That was 12 years ago.
Of course, you're still friends.
Yeah, we're still friends. So 1.5 years later, that is when now
You got married.
yes,
Wow.
we got married.
We thank God for such men.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. And he really stood by
men
me.
who can see you
Yeah.
beyond
Yes.
your situations, what
Yeah.
you're going through. Because, our society is really demonizing men,
Yeah, it
Not,
is.
men are not dogs.
They are
men.
not. They are not. Yes.
If one disappointed you, one
Doesn't mean all of them.
disappointed Zed is so
Yeah.
badly. Now you have called all of them dogs.
Yeah. Yes.
There is always a remnant.
Good
I
ones.
mean, you see, Vincent, the husband to Patricia, I mean, do you know there are those men you go through that, they say you are cast. In fact, umerogwa. Especially if you come from those sides where we
Yes.
mingi.
We know.
You don't have to mention.
Mtu alisha, alirogwa. Now he will leave you and go and get another wife who can give him children without trouble.
I
But
think
the fact that he stood with you, that's a good man.
We thank
I wanted to add on to what you're saying. It's not even about the husband. Me, I'm looking at the mother-in-law.
Yeah.
We have mother-in-laws who
Oh,
will
yeah.
pressure the son.
Yeah.
Watakutafutia.
Yeah, but for your mother-in-law also to be with
Yeah.
you and hold her.
And I can say, like my mother-in-law, she was, apart from my husband, she was always the first person carrying fruits in every ward round. If I'm not seeing my husband,
You're seeing your mother-in-law.
she's the first one to reach the hospital, and she must come. Until sometimes we were even afraid to tell her tuko tena na theater ingine, because she's our mother, and we are like, so mechoka. She goes out of her way, and that is why we just thank God because of the people. I think healing also comes with who is around you, who is surrounding you. They can bring the healing faster than maybe facing or having people that are not very, very supportive. Yeah. So at the end of the day, God is faithful.
God is
So
faithful.
mother-in-laws we also have very good mother-in-laws.
We
I
have
had
them.
a very good mother-in-law, by the way, but she
Awesome.
passed on.
Oh, sorry.
So they are still there. It's just matters. Why are you praying for your husband now, or you're just waiting to get married? I remember Patricia in KU. We used to go to Mlimani. We would pray for her husband. You remember?
But you see the prayers. But at that time, it was not easy.
They are bearing fruit. Guys, we have to go. But before we go, Patricia and Zeddy, I'd like us to sing this song. The God of the mountains is still God in the valley.
Awesome.
That's how we are going to end our show today.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
calm down. I want to go. For the God of the mountains is still God in the valleys. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God of the good times is
is still God of the bad times, the God of the day is still God in the night.
It has been Sister Talk.
Awesome.
Have a good night. I've been your host, Linda Talam. Bye-bye.